Good afternoon, folks. This is Bruce Kleinberg, and I'm back to continue our lecture series on pain, injury, and how that pain gets transmitted to the brain for processing. As you may recall, when we left off last time, we were talking about the dorsal spinal root, and that's the nerve root that takes in the sensations of pain, temperature, those kind of things, and gets it to the brain. How does it get it to the brain? It uses tracts, or electrical circuits, if you will. And in this case, we talked about the ventral spinothalamic tract, which goes from the spine, which you have a nice picture here, up to the brain. And specifically, the thalamic part of that tract, of course, refers to the thalamus, which is right here. So I want to talk to you today about what happens when that signal gets to the thalamus. The thalamus, I like this picture because it's three-dimensional. And for folks like me, I don't see well in three-dimensional. These two-dimensional images are very hard for me to orientate myself. So I like this image a lot. It shows you the thalamus is right in the middle of the brain. That's where it should be, because the job of the thalamus is to be a processing center and a distribution center. It's going to take this signal and it's going to send it out to various points and parts of the brain for processing. Also, very interesting, you'll see a sensor here in the ear, the eye, the nose. The thalamus takes the information in from all of these senses and processes it and sends it out and distributes it to the brain for interpretation. And that's the key. What are we going to do with this information? The thalamus can't do that. It can distribute it, but it can't think about it. It can't make a decision. That job is the cerebral cortex. Now, specifically, the thalamus is pretty complicated. There's a bunch of parts to it. They're called nuclei. And specifically, the nuclei we're talking about is called the VPL, the ventral posterior lateral part of this nuclei. Well, what does ventral mean? It means the front. Dorsal is where your dorsal fin would be if you're flipper. So always think of that dorsal fin. Ventral is the opposite. What does posterior mean? It means in the back. Kleinberg, you just told me I'm talking about the front. Why am I talking about the back now? Because within the compartment, within the nuclei, if you can picture a cube, there's a front and a back to the cube. So too, there's a front and a back to this area here, which is the ventral portion, ventral being front or the belly of the thalamus. So we're toward the back of the front, right about where that button is actually is not a bad spot. And lastly, we use the word lateral. Lateral means to the side, a lateral pass. So lateral to the side would be more out to the side, to the outer portion, if you will, of the thalamus, versus toward the middle portion. So again, this button is a really good representation of where that signal goes to when it comes up the spinal cord to the brain, specifically to the thalamus. What happens to that signal? It's sent out to the cortex, which is the thinking part of the brain, this green area here. And there are some specific areas where these sensations go. And then that signal is processed and a decision is made. Move the hand. Get a heating pad. Something that in our memory we know how to take care of this type of an injury. Go to the doctor. And all those kind of decisions are made in an accident, injury, pain situation. And I wanted, again, my job here, my goal is to give you more in-depth information. Not just the usual, hey, you were hurt, you were injured. I want you to understand deeper why you have the pain sensations from the injury, where the signal goes, and how it's processed. The next time we talk, we'll go to the last step, which is what happens to that signal once it's been processed and a decision has been made. How does that signal get back down to the muscle groups that are going to make a decision as to what to do to alleviate that pain or to try and help the situation? Folks, it's a pleasure to talk to you as always. I hope you've enjoyed this. And again, my goal is to give you more information so that you can make an informed decision about where you want to go if you're in an accident or have an injury. Please, shop and compare. Thank you very much.